Well, 9 First Nations in Ontario have filed a court injunction against the federal government's bills to fast-track infrastructure projects. Bill 5 and Bill C-5 saying the laws violate their charter rights. The group argues that both laws are a clear and present danger to ways of life on their territories. The First Nations are asking the court to prohibit both levels of government from using the legislation, while the governments say their laws are tools needed to counteract the effects of tariffs. Marianne Domain is tracking that part of the story for us. Marianne, what more can you tell us about these injunctions and their concerns?
Yes, these injunctions were filed this week, and the leaders from these 9 First Nations communities in Ontario are concerned about both the federal bill C-5 and the provincial bill 5 that they say violate their charter rights of life, liberty, security, as well as equality. And you saw those images just a few moments ago, those protests outside of the buildings in Ottawa. They are holding signs expressing their concerns about this bill, particularly the federal bill C-5 that essentially fast tracks infrastructure projects, all across the country. Now, looking at the federal bill C-5 first, that essentially allows cabinet to quickly approve these national projects, things like pipelines and ports, if they are considered of national interest. The provincial bill 5 allows cabinet to suspend certain municipal and provincial laws to create these special economic zones. Now, these leaders have said they are not against development. What they are against are any projects, that could violate their rights, as I mentioned, the rights of their land. They want to make sure that they are protected, that there are the proper consultations, because the premiers and the federal governments have both said that they would have consultations with these First Nations communities when it comes to the plans and the projects planned for their lands. But the leaders are saying this is a clear and present danger to the rights of their people, the rights of their land, and that's why they want this injunction. They want to make sure that the proper process is in place here. Now, talking about Premier Doug Ford, Ontario's Premier, he has already started consultations with Indigenous leaders. Those are expected to continue throughout the summer. He's also meeting with premiers next week in Huntsville, and while there, in a news release, Premier Ford said he'd also be meeting with different Indigenous leaders to talk about economic development and economic interests. So we're keeping an eye on that, keeping an eye on any statements from Indigenous leaders today. But essentially, this is just the beginning. We knew this was coming when we saw all of that opposition when the bill was first passed last week. And here we are now talking about again and what's coming next now that these injunctions have been filed this week.
All right, Marianne, thank you so much.
You're welcome.